making profit through copyright. This is Stan Lee of Marvel Comics, who created heroes with superpowers such as Iron Man and Spider-Man. Before Stan Lee began working at Marvel Comics, he signed a transfer of copyrights contract with the Stan Lee Media Company in 1998. The contents of this contract were that the copyrights on all the characters he had created until then and will create in the future have been transferred to Stan Lee Media. However, Stan Lee wrote a letter to Stan Lee Media stating that the contract was void because the company violated the terms. Afterwards, Stan Lee signed a contract with Marvel Comics and transferred the copyrights on the characters he created over to them. When the Walt Disney Company bought Marvel Comics for $4 billion in 2009, Marvel Comics became Disney's subsidiary, and the contract with Stan Lee was automatically transferred to the Walt Disney Company. Then, in 2012, Stan Lee Media sued the Walt Disney Company for copyright infringement, citing that the Walt Disney Company used Stan Lee's character without receiving permission from Stan Lee Media. Stan Lee Media came under the spotlight when it lodged a claim for a huge reparation of $5.5 billion for damages from the Walt Disney Company for the profit it made using the characters. The issue involved the contents of the transference contract signed in 1998 in regards to the comic book characters that have already been created or will be created. In 2010, the California Court of Law ruled that the contract signed in 1998 was a lifetime contract and, as such, against California's labor law. Furthermore, because the 1998 contract didn't define any specific character, the term was too ambiguous, and the contract alone could not be sufficient evidence that Stan Lee Media held a valid copyright. So the court ruled in favor of the Walt Disney Company, and Stan Lee Media lost the case. A copyright holder can transfer his copyright and make a profit. When the copyright is transferred, the copyright holder changes. Therefore, when writing up the contract, the scope of the copyright being transferred must be precisely set and worded in the contract. If the terms are too ambiguous, it may be interpreted as the copyright holder having transferred even the rights he didn't wish to. Then, copyright infringement may occur. The copyright holder may receive royalties through the license agreement. However, it is not easy for an individual to manage his or her own copyright. So each country has a government office in charge of managing copyrights. The institution that specializes in managing copyrights monitors, audits, and acts as a mediator in regards to the division of royalties between the copyright holder and the copyright user. According to the reports published by APRA, the Australasian Performing Rights Association, and SOCAN, the Society of Composers, Authors, and Music Publishers of Canada, the royalties collected domestically and overseas are increasing every year. They not only collect royalties domestically, but also overseas, thanks to the international agreement among countries. Starting with the Berne Conventions, all the countries around the world got together and adopted treaties such as the Universal Copyright Convention and WIPO Copyright Treaty to protect copyright work. The World Intellectual Property Organization and UNESCO are the leading international bodies that manage the international copyright treaties like those mentioned before. Copyrights are now expanding beyond the domestic industries and entering the international market in modern times. Through international treaties and administering institutions specializing in managing copyrights, we can now protect our copyright materials and prepare against any domestic, overseas copyright disputes. Moreover, the profit produced through the use of copyrights is now leading the development in cultures and industries relevant to copyrights. It is important for companies to make efforts to secure valid copyrights considering that numerous global companies are focusing on creative management in order to lead new future industries.